Welcome back to SuperWest On Sundays, everybody. As always, I'm joined by fellow senior writer Stephen Villardo. I'm joined by fellow senior writer and the only assistant editor in Dane Miller. And my name is Nick Bartlett. And the three of us together make up SuperWest On Sundays. And so essentially, we're going to be starting like everyone else this week, guys. I think we might have to do it a little bit. We're going to start by talking Washington, Oregon. We're going to hop into the USC-Notre Dame game. And then we're going to give a little insight on Wyoming and Air Force. And we're also going to kind of throw a couple random little surprise games because there were a little crazy upsets, comebacks, and a lot of wild things going on this week. So with that, I'm going to kick it down to Dane this week. We're going to go down to Dane. And you kind of have some initial thoughts on Washington, Oregon?
Dan Lanning's decision making, and I think this is a consistent theme, and well, certainly in last year's game against Washington, and really over his career so far at Oregon, is his aggressive choices. He decided to go for it on fourth down when he could have kicked two field goals, which would have got him 6 points, assuming that they had made those field goals. Instead, he went for it and did not convert. So that's 6 points he left on the board, which I mean might have been enough to win the game in the end. And also the fourth down decision with what was it, 2 minutes left, right at midfield. And I'm kind of okay with the decision in that instance, but I'm not okay with the play call of passing it when you're able to run the ball so effectively against Washington's defense. And in the key moment when all you need is 3 yards, you run like sort of like a bootleg to the left, and everybody was covered, and it just kind of was a disaster of a play call and execution. So in that moment, I'm okay with that particular decision, but I think the play calling there was wrong, and they should have run the ball. But the two fourth down, I guess going forward in the red zone, I think it was in at the end of the first half and sometime in the second half again, when you could have kicked a field goal and gotten the points, and instead you go for it and you don't get it. That's a big deal to me. I think that's a coaching issue. Coaching, certainly you might be able to put the loss entirely on the coaching staff's decisions in those moments, because it's a 3 point game, and that's 6 points you left on the board. So that could have been enough to win the game, and that's just my main takeaway is Dan Lanning and what he's doing out there. Otherwise, it's a great game. It's probably one of the best games of the weekend. I mean, there were some other great ones too, some Hail Marys that we'll get to later, and then what happened to Stanford. But yeah, it was a great game. I think a lot of people were expecting something like that, maybe not quite coming down to the wire like that, but it really met expectations. I think is a preview of what the Pac-12 championship game is going to be. One thing that's good about the Pac-12 this year is they got rid of the divisions. So in years past, that might have eliminated Oregon from the chance of getting in the Pac-12 championship game. But now that the divisions are gone, that's probably going to be the rematch that we're looking at in Las Vegas. And that's good for the conference. It's good for everyone in the country that likes to watch competitive high level football like that. So that's what I got from it. But yeah, really, Dan Lanning, it's you can put that game on him in my book.
100% agree, and especially the call at the end of the first half, because at that point in time, you kick the field goal, you make it a cut into that lead. I think it would have been a 1 point game then, maybe, or 3 point game, whatever it was at half. But either way, Oregon's getting the ball out of half with some momentum then. Totally shifted that around because Washington obviously took the momentum into the locker room. But yeah, I mean, the Ducks, for what it's worth, kind of outplayed Washington, to be honest with you. I mean, Bo Nix put up better numbers and might have even played better than Penix. I mean, Oregon has like 550 yards of total offense, I think, almost. I know they rushed for 204. I mean, Bucky Irving was amazing. And even with that, you have that call at the end. Yeah, give it to Bucky Irving up the middle. Your two backs, Irving and Jordan James, are averaging like 5.8 yards carry on the day. I mean, obviously, that third down play, they were expecting the run, and they kind of went wide a little bit with Jordan James, which I don't necessarily know that I liked that play design either. When you're just, I mean, go right up against the blitz and see if you could beat it with the run up the middle, and then to go for it there on fourth down with that pass. I just was not a big fan of the play call either. Don't necessarily mind the decision, because if you get that, you win the game. But At the same token, you're giving the ball up at the 50, but I mean, in hindsight, you could say it almost worked because Washington scored quick enough that Oregon got another chance and really had another shot to win it down the stretch and just couldn't get it in. But there are a few kind of play calls that were just kind of questionable throughout that game. And almost on both sides too, but definitely more with Oregon and Lanning. The thing about that game that I was impressed with is just how physical it was. I mean, those two teams are physical football teams, and I mean, we can talk about passing out on the West Coast and everything like that. Some soft. I mean, USC might have proved that they are a little bit soft this week, and we'll get into that. But these two teams can go up against anybody in the country and go toe to toe with them. It was a good physical, hard game.
And I think I may have so I'm just going to quickly kind of agree with what you guys say because it is the facts of the situation, but I'm going to give a little bit different take. Quickly, I agree. There was one of those instances in the first half, second half, whatever. And Steve, it would have been 21-22, I believe, had the Ducks taken making the field goal. So I hear you 100%. But I mean, for me, there was one of those instances, and I think it's something that Dane touched on a little bit earlier. Again, a little different though. They had it on like third down, third and goal from like the 2-yard line. And it was one of those instances when they could have, when they're trying to score a touchdown. And they threw it on third down, and I think Winford ended up throwing it on fourth down. And I feel like as a head coach, you need to be playing chess, not checkers, playing a simple, corny cloak. But bottom line is really you just need to be thinking 2 plays ahead. I don't know why you couldn't think you're just going to run the ball twice here and get 2 yards and score a touchdown. Throwing it felt like they're going a little bit against their identity, but you guys have already touched on kind of this topic with Lanning, and I don't want to beat up on a fan base that I know is not in a good place today. So I'll let that kind of slide. My kind of unique take is being a Cougar. Screw everything involved with this. The Huskies did good. The Cougars did bad. And then my other kind of like just honest take is I do live in Seattle, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Just I was out, I wasn't walking. I was just kind of out in there's like a nice little. I live in like a little like. There's a nice little kind of. I'm just kind of beating around the bush here. I live in like a kind of little nice area. I'm lucky, and I was kind of just like in a back alley, and like that sounds sketchy, but I would just kind of but I would just you could feel the vibe of the city. It was you could feel the energy. It was crazy, and it was cool to be a part of that. So I think 2 coins here, just really just cool to see the energy. I haven't seen that in Seattle really in a long, long time. Honestly, since I've probably been a little kid, thinking back to like Marcus Tuiasosopo. There's a name for you, but really just phenomenal victory. And Penix, if we had questions about his toughness, he backed it up. It was obvious he was hurt. He was getting hit. And the last thing I do want to touch on is, yes, it was physical, but Oregon imposed themselves more tactically, physically, in terms of like they just controlled the offensive line throughout the game, where UW sent a message from the very beginning. They were hitting. Someone rocked Jordan James at the beginning of the game. And same thing on a kick return. And the Huskies were laying the type of hits that were like, if you're on Oregon, like I don't know if I really want to play football anymore. So I think that was a little bit different. I didn't know UW necessarily had that in them. So I'm sure we touched on that game for a little bit. And let's just kick it right over to you, Steve. Obviously, we'll say shouts to UW. Huge win for the conference. Huge win for Super West teams in general, keeping the college football playoff alive. And with that, I'm going to get it over to you, Steve. And you got any kind of quick thoughts on, not even quick thoughts, just general kind of takeaways from USC-Notre Dame?
That was just atrocious by USC. They just didn't show up to compete. And I mean, we can talk about their defense all we want, but this was not on the defense. This was the offense. I mean, that was just inept against Notre Dame. And I mean, 5 turnovers. Caleb Williams by far had the worst game of his career, whether it be at Oklahoma or USC. I think. I mean, his very first pass of the game that he threw, maybe it was second pass, whatever it was, but it was his first drive was just an awful pass that probably should have been pick 6, but it was just an interception. And that kind of set the tone for everything that happened the rest of the game. I mean, but 5 turnovers, and not only the 5 turnovers, but I mean, the last turnover of the game when they're basically just kind of running the ball to run out the clock almost. I mean, USC is at this point in time. I mean, I know they're still trying to do stuff, but the ball's just stripped right out of a defender's hands then with like a minute and 2 seconds to go or something. And it just basically summed up the entire game for anybody that watched that whole game. But USC just got outplayed, out physicaled, outmanned. Everything about it. Caleb Williams was off target. They didn't get anything going. Gave up 48 points, but again, 5 turnovers and turnover on downs a couple times in there. I know that they turned it over on downs at their own 20 in the fourth quarter at one point in time when it was a 2-score game. And then, so, Notre Dame, I scored. How many points did they score in that fourth quarter alone? They scored 17, outscored USC 17-7 in the fourth quarter alone, and it was basically just stuff like that, getting the ball at the USC 20 with 6 minutes to go because USC was in complete panic mode at that point in time. So a disappointing loss for the Trojans. A big blow for them, and really a big blow for the conference in whole too, because this is one that get a nice and Notre Dame's not that good either. That's the thing too. Notre Dame's not they're ranked. They're going to be ranked. They're going to be ranked all season, but we're not talking about going into to Michigan or Georgia or something like that, where you got a true powerhouse this year, or even like Florida State or North Carolina in the ACC. Notre Dame is probably might be the 4th best team in the ACC, and I'm going to call Notre Dame an ACC team because that's what they are. But yeah, so just a disappointing game all around, and they didn't show up. And we talk about Alex Grinch's defense. They've got to create turnovers if they're going to be successful. They went with 0 turnovers again today. I think they're down to like 8 now, and whatever it is, 6 games, however many they played, or they're just not turning over teams like they need to for that defense to be successful. And if they're not creating turnovers, that defense is not going to be successful. I will say though that in this game, I'm not pinning anything on that defense. It was a complete embarrassment by USC, and especially on offense.
Yeah, for me, there's just one moment that I remember that just stands out in my mind. It was in the third quarter. USC had got to 20 points, and it was, I think, a 10-point, 11-point game. And they kick off, and Notre Dame returns it for a touchdown. And so when you're trying to go on the road and you're trying to make a comeback, and your offense finally got something, and then you give up a special teams, return to the house, that can't happen. And so that just really sticks out to me because I think USC might have had a chance to do something maybe if their defense gets a stop there. It's a 2-possession game and their offense scores again. Suddenly it's a 1-possession game, but you give up a back-breaking, return to the house, and that's just the end of it. And I think that was really a spirit-breaking moment in the game. But yeah, Caleb Williams just was way off, like way, way, way off. And so you can't win on the road when your quarterback's doing that. It doesn't matter who you are. As for what it means for the Pac-12, I don't know how much it really hurts it. It does hurt it a little bit, but nobody was really looking at USC as the best team in the Pac-12. That kind of ship has sailed for the past few weeks based on USC's performance. I think you could probably at this point put Oregon State above USC in my ranking. I guess I probably will. So we're talking about the 4th best team in the Pac-12 losing to a ranked Notre Dame team on the road. It's bad, but it doesn't change the fact that the still conference is pretty loaded and top to bottom is still pretty good. So there's certainly an argument to be made that the winner of the Pac-12, no matter how many losses they have, should be one of the 4 teams in the playoff. But we'll see how that goes. Once the year gets straightened out a little bit more, we'll have to really handicap that. But as of now, I think what the loss is damaging for the conference, but not devastating like it might be in years past. So that's my takeaway. The big picture, the Pac-12 is still intact after that. It's not destroyed.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think we should be all right, particularly like you mentioned. Oregon State actually could still make a run at this thing. Oregon's looking pretty solid. Washington's looking pretty solid. So there are still definitely some teams. And there is another, we're out here Super West. So we got another kind of conference and a team we got to show some love to. And we had a big matchup in the Mountain West this week. And so, Steve, what was kind of your insights or thoughts on Air Force Wyoming?
Well, I think we got 2 good teams right there, and I think similar to Oregon, Washington. Oh no, you're fine. No, it was just I think similar to what we saw with Washington and Oregon. I think this is a preview for the Mountain West conference championship game as well. Wyoming went on the road to Air Force, and it was a tight 34-27 game. I think Wyoming was definitely missing Harrison Whaley, who was out because at running back, and he's a big play waiting to happen pretty much every single time. From the Wyoming standpoint, Andrew Peasley again proved that he's can get the job done in the big games, which was kind of, especially heading into Fresno State, was a question mark for them. And then they obviously took care of that one and performed well enough in this one. Got actually took a 14-7 lead after one, and it was tight. The loss of Whaley, just the running game, Peasley actually had to end up leading the way running with 48 yards, I think, and then he threw for 212 or something. They just had no answer, which nobody ever does really for Air Force's run game, but the Falcons had 356 yards rushing, so that's a tough way to go there. And I mean, Air Force is an extremely good team, and their schedule sets up now. Really, the toughest thing on their regular season schedule from here on out is Boise State in the season finale, and then I'm assuming a rematch with Wyoming in the Mountain West title game. I think both of these teams are really good. Wyoming's 2 losses are now at Air Force and at Texas, and both of them were games that the Cowboys were in. I think Air Force, I'll make a bold prediction, I don't think they're going to lose another game. They're going to end up going to the Mountain West championship game, and that'll be a tough one, but they'll win that one. They'll be the top group of 5 team and go to whatever New Year's Six bowl they get and play Ohio State or Alabama or USC or whoever the third team from one of those conferences is, and Air Force will probably run for 350 yards and win the game. So there's my bold prediction of Air Force running the table and ending up like 14-0 or 15-0 or whatever they end up, but ranked 18th in the country. So.
Yeah, and I mean, didn't Wyoming knock off, was it Texas Tech earlier this year?
First game of the year, yeah. They beat Texas Tech, who just manhandled BYU yesterday. I think it was 44-11. So to give you kind of where Texas Tech's a decent team. I mean, Texas Tech took Oregon to the I think that was the 8-point game that I think raised some questions about Oregon, but I think Texas Tech is a decent team too. The fact of the matter is Wyoming's a very good team, and that's exactly right. And Nick, I think you're going to keep getting to write song lyrics in your previews for them every week.
Yes, sir. I do got to say, even though you literally have know 97% times more than me about college football, something like that. It was I think last week it was actually TCU who kind of ran BYU out of the water though. So it was TCU. Yes, it was. You're right. 100%. It's cool, dude. I haven't talked for 10 minutes because you've been spitting knowledge.
Sorry about that.
I've just been spitting here waiting to talk some depressed stuff about my Cougs. Is this on the schedule? Guys? Yeah, okay, good stuff. All right, and Dane, I'll let you, talk the majority of it here. Basically, I just want to say, and I'll keep it logical. I'll keep it actually football talk. Bottom line is I think that when RIP to Mike Leach, when Mike Leach was around, WSU had a lot of options at the wide receiver position, and really they just don't have it anymore. And without that, they're not really a real threat. Lincoln Victor he's none in comparison to like the real receivers in the Pac-12. Obviously, he's a phenomenal player. He's a talent, but if we're comparing him to like Rome Odunze over at UW, I think it's a little bit obvious, the talent discrepancy. You're looking at a team that just doesn't really have a lot. They don't have anything at halfback. Nakia Watson, they don't even try and run the ball anymore. And so you're just looking at a team now that doesn't have any real threats. So you're putting Cam Ward in a position, and Cam Ward kind of goes into shell mode. We've seen this last year. We've seen this year. There's 2 Cam Wards, the Cam Ward who looks like a Heisman and the Cam Ward who just looks scared a little bit, to be quite frank. And so just my thoughts on WSU football is, unfortunately, for all my Cougs out there, we may not be quite as good as we thought we were. Go Oregon State, still win the Pac-2. Still pulling for you guys for sure. But with that, I just want to say a lot of shouts to Arizona, because I watched Zona versus USC last week, was thoroughly impressed. And watching them against WSU, I do think WSU is a little bit worse than we thought, but Arizona is definitely a little bit better. So kick it over to you, Dane.
Yeah, my just takeaway from the game is Johnny Nansen once again. Arizona's defensive coordinator is just getting creative with his schemes, with his formations, and that's really changing the dynamic of Arizona's ceiling. Last season and the year before and a couple years, over the past few years, the problem with Arizona has primarily been its defense, and that's kind of changing this year into more of an asset, and that Arizona hasn't had something like that in like a decade. So what he's doing is just creative formations. I mean, like the 7 defensive back lineup that he introduced against Washington, the 3-1-7. He ran some of that against Washington State in Pullman. He also ran some 3-3-5 with one of the linebackers acting as a spy. And then Arizona's still able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks with 3 defensive linemen um, because of the skill that they have, and they also have depth. So they rotate the defensive line. They're always fresh. They have like 7, maybe 8 players on the defensive line that can come in and contribute. And so when you have that healthy rotation, and Jacob Manu at linebackers, I think he's second in the Pac-12 in tackles. So when you have like your front group of people, your defensive line, your linebackers with that are talented, and then you do these creative schemes, it really comes together. And holding Washington State at home to 6 points, completely unexpected, I think, and just shows where the defense is under Nansen in his second season in Tucson, and really kind of changes the trajectory of Arizona this year. Winning at Washington State was not what anybody was predicting at the beginning of the season. Arizona doesn't usually play well on the road. I think when they looked at the schedule and were thinking how does Arizona get to 6 wins, beating Washington State and Pullman was not part of it. So that changes the likelihood of Arizona making a bowl game. I still think 6-6, it's going to be tough. I say it every week, it's going to be tough. But now with a win like that, suddenly the games at Colorado and Arizona State seem to be the path to 6 wins. Arizona always plays well at home, so there's an opportunity against Utah. There's also an opportunity against Oregon State, especially if those games are during the day. Day games in Tucson are a lot different for opposing teams to handle. But yeah, I mean, Noah Fafita's continuing to do his thing. Very accurate with his throws, good decision making, is mobile enough to escape pressure. He was the quarterback at high school with Teta Iroa and McMillan, so they already have a connection there from several years. And Arizona's run game is doing what it does. So it's all kind of coming together. And we'll see. I mean, 2 more wins to bowl eligibility. Arizona hasn't made a bowl game since 2017. So it's a big deal to get that win on the road over a ranked opponent, 44-6. Yeah, that's impressive.
Definitely, and I think because I think just naturally having a WCU and maybe a UA guy in the show, I think maybe we naturally spent a little kind of extra time on it. So you guys all got a little extra coverage, 4 deep insights, but I know we had 2 other really just kind of fun games. Dane or Steve, whoever wants to take this, just like really quick thoughts on Stanford, Colorado, or the Boise debacle, really.
Steve, start with Boise State.
Okay, so yeah, that was first off. Boise State's got to go with Maddox Madsen at quarterback. I mean, that's it, this 2 quarterback system is not working, and the team has the offense moves better with Madsen back there than they are with Taylon Green right now, and that's just how it is. But either way, they've got to pick a quarterback, go with it, because this 2 quarterback thing is not working out. So Boise State, I was actually out at having a couple drinks with somebody last night watching that game, and Colorado State was making it a game, and I said to the person, I was like, all right, yeah, we'll got to stick around for this onside kick, make sure that the game's over and everything. There was the penalty, they had to re-kick it, onside kick. Boise State gets it. I'm like, all right, we can roll out, get home and see the end and the Hail Mary that Colorado State won. So I gave up on that one because I thought it was over after they didn't get the onside kick, which makes it even worse. But I mean, 30-10 with 4 minutes to go in that game, and Colorado State comes all the way back and wins it. This isn't the Boise State team we're used to in a lot of years for sure. But Colorado State, you're going to give them some credit because they are, obviously give them credit because they came back and got the win. But since they changed after week 1 to Braden Fowler Nicolosi at quarterback, that offense has looked much, much better. And we've talked about Torrey Horton on this show before. He had another huge game last night, I think 10 catches for like 130 yards. That guy is a phenomenal wide receiver. I would say probably one of the top 6 to 8 wide receivers in the country, perhaps, or at least top 10. I mean, the guy is going to be playing in the NFL because he can play any of the three positions at wide receiver in the NFL. He's big, but he can still be in the slot if need be. Colorado State's playing decent football. Boise State is not playing decent football, and Boise State's got a lot of things they got to fix. Ashton Genty was huge again for the Broncos, but that was just, I think you said it best, Nick, with the Boise debacle, because that's what it was. It was just a debacle.
Yeah, like you mentioned, definitely a little bit unexpected for what I consider a championship level program. And Dane, you got four bars on Stanford, Colorado.
Yeah, just Colorado dominated the first half, gave up. Stanford didn't, and Stanford won. So
that was four. I'm pretty sure that was four. All right, guys, let's see how much time we got left here. Cool, perfect. Yeah, so let's hop over to our players and teams of the week. Ooh, we did not pick teams of the week, so these are going to be on the spot. I'm going to throw you guys under the fire really quick. You got a team of the week, Steve?
I'm gonna go with Stanford. It's probably, I mean, I think the obvious choice might have been somebody better, but I'm going to go with Stanford, perhaps getting their final Pac-12 win ever, and in the fashion that they did it against Colorado. And yeah, so they are my team of the week. I'm going to go ahead and go with them. So that's my team.
Cool. And Dane, you got a not team of the week or team of the week?
yeah, I'm gonna go with Washington as my team of the week. Not team of the week, USC and Colorado, but I think we should highlight the positives. So certainly Washington remaining undefeated and looking like a playoff team.
Wow. My not team of the week is going to be San Diego State, even though they won, but they're just bad. So
they're just bad.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Sorry, SDSU fans. We're cheering for you. A little rough out here for you this year, but yeah, I guess that covers it. My team of the week. I gotta do Washington. Living in Seattle, and just feeling the energy. And once I step outside today, wearing my Cougar shirt, even though I may get a little Husky spirit. Probably not, but maybe a little. But in all seriousness, I got to pick the Huskies. What a phenomenal performance in the biggest game of the year. And they showed out. And it was really cool to just even watch that on TV and be a part of it in all seriousness. And so for players of the week, I'll go right back over to you guys. Start with you, Steve. Who you got? We'll do offensive first.
I'll start with offensive player of the week and from Stanford in that game, Elik Iomanor. I believe I'm saying that right. But 13 catches, 294 yards. Was targeted 19 times. Of his 13 receptions, 12 of them either picked up a first down or scored a touchdown. So a huge game for him, matched up against Travis Hunter, who, I mean, Travis Hunter is a good player. I mean, and that anybody who watched that game throughout that catch that Iomanor had at the end over Hunter's back was just amazing. So that's offensive player of the week.
Then was it Dane or Steve? Let's see what we got written down here. For defensive, actually, no, I guess I'll introduce you. We got Akili Arnold for Oregon State, played a phenomenal outing against UCLA. Really just kind of the key player out there. And Steve, wasn't it something like 13 tackles, something along those lines?
Yeah, 13 total tackles. Yeah, also an interception and a pass broken up. So 2 passes defended, 13 tackles. Good day for him.
Perfect. And then Dane, I know you probably got something for the freshman of the week out there.
Yeah, I think we're going with Noah Fafita again. I don't think he had any touchdown passes, but he executed the offense the way that needed to be done. Didn't make any mistakes, and like I said earlier, was mobile enough to avoid sacks most of the time and just really ran Washington State out of the building.
All right. And then Steve, take us home with a special team story about a guy named Jack. That was so bad.
Jack Browning for San Diego State is my special teamer of the day, of the week. Punted the ball 4 times, 56-yard average. 3 of the punts pinned Hawaii inside the 20, and also was 2 for 3 on field goals, with his 1 miss being a 50-yarder. And as San Diego State hung on and got the win against the much improved Hawaii team. Yeah,
definitely. You guys got any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Oregon State doing what they needed to do against UCLA. Dante Moore throwing like 3 interceptions, and one of them was a pick 6. Colin Schlee, the backup, came in and got hurt. So things are looking rough out there in Westwood, and but yeah, Oregon State doing what they needed to do to maintain their chances at getting to the Pac-12 championship game.
Awesome, perfect. And with that final note, for Dane, for Steve, this has been Super West on Sundays, and I think we all got to be a part of a really cool weekend in college football. Huge win for the Huskies. We want to see a little bit better from USC, but as always, it's been a lot of fun. Deuces.